Development Debate. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. Now, as we hit the home stretch of the big Indian election, voters have made their choice now in 484 of 543 seats. With just one phase to go, the attempt to win over the undecided voter has grown stronger. And we're seeing this in the slew of interviews over the last few days from Prime Minister Modi and Congress President Rahul Gandhi. Now, with 7 days to go for the last phase, both political leaders are at pains to differentiate themselves from their prime opponent. So while Modi talks about how he pushed for the Balakot strikes despite poor weather and how Khan market doesn't determine his image, Rahul paints himself as a leader who believes in consensus and love, of course. So which of the two has managed to send out a stronger and clearer message so close to D-Day? To speak on this, I am joined today by an excellent panel of political analysts. Smita Prakash, editor, News ANI, is with us today. I'm also speaking with senior journalist Neerja Chaudhary. Sagarika Ghosh, consulting editor of the Times of India, is also joining us today. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for speaking with us on India Development Debate. Let me start with Sagarika and the premise I have started this show with, about how in the home stretch you see a lot more interviews and both Prime Minister Modi and Rahul Gandhi trying to paint a sharp contrast between themselves and the other man.
Well, Tamanna, this is, as you said, the last phase, penultimate phase of a very, very long, drawn-out elections. 7 phases, and it really begs the question that, you know, if the third phase could have 116 seats, then why did we need 2 phases of 50 seats each? Could these not have been clubbed together in a single phase? I mean, with this digital India and India making strides in technology, surely the Election Commission should think about whether Indian elections need to be staggered over these huge number of phases. But that aside, yes, you're absolutely right. It's a tightly contested elections. There's a degree of uncertainty about the results. The opinion polls are swinging wildly one way or the other. There are lots of numbers floating around. And, you know, this election is being fought a lot on the media, on WhatsApp. It's a media-saturated universe we are living in, with social media, WhatsApp media, of course, the mainstream media. So every political leader is out there putting out his views on WhatsApp, on social media, through interviews, in an effort to win over, to reach out, to have, to access as many voters as they can. But I would say by now, Tamanna, minds are more or less made up, and I think the voting patterns are more or less set. This is a very important phase for the BJP as well as the opposition. I would say in Uttar Pradesh, which is the battleground state, the election has now moved eastward, and this is where the Gathbandhan, the BSP-SP combine, really needs to score in this particular phase. They need to hold on to these strongholds, because if they begin to fall back in these seats, then it would really be advantage BJP. It is in the Purvanchal region that the SP-BSP must hold on to its strongholds.
Yeah.
In Delhi, the Congress party has reason to rue the fact that it did not have an alliance with the...
I'm not for a minute suggesting this is a head-to-head fight between Modi and Rahul on the other side. It's definitely a lot of regional players who will make the big difference. I'm talking about the positioning over the last few days with the slew of interviews we've seen in mainline newspapers and of course on television and several channels. Let me come to Smita with the point that I'm trying to make. Closer to this last phase, it seems more and more like a pitched battle where Prime Minister Modi, for example, is trying to draw a contrast between himself, the whole Namdar Kamdar theme, which echoes in the attacks on Rajiv Gandhi, or today his his comments in a newspaper interview about Khan market not being able to dismantle his image, etc. Do you think that this is an important strategy at this phase of the election?
I think if you were to compare and contrast the two styles of Rahul Gandhi and of Modi, whereas Modi's style has been to give a spate of interviews as soon as elections were announced. It went on in a systematic manner. He's given it to most media houses, barring a few, and it's been a set pattern Whereas Rahul Gandhi has suddenly given it. He's never given television interviews for the past 5 years. After 5 years, he's decided to give it now, and he seems to be faring well. As far as Modi's interview that you're talking about and the one that you're playing today, which is the Indian Express interview, it was a very sharp interview. Almost in every alternate question, he's talked about, when he talks about the Khan market consensus, which is actually, Khan market is, for viewers who don't know about New Delhi, Khan market is in a Tony neighborhood in New Delhi, and it's where lots of journalists and lawyers and intellectuals, theatre people, they all converge out there, and a lot of talking and discussing current affairs happens out there. Many people say that that's where sometimes governments are formed, cabinets are formed, and things like that. A lot of it is, like what used to happen in, say, in India International Center, Gymkhana Club, long ago, now changed and moved to Khan Market. So what Modi is trying to say in this interview was that I am not a product of the Khan Market consensus, which is that this group of, say, elite socialist liberals, I am not a product of that. I am a product of my tapasya, he says, which is hard work that he has worked. He's trying to distance himself. Of course, in Khan Market now, the BJP guys are also there. The people from BJP think tanks also visit Khan Market. It's not exclusively the left liberals, which it used to be. But Modi clearly saying that, I have not been accepted by the socialist liberals of Delhi, and it doesn't matter. I'm going to do what I have to do. This is my agenda. This has been my agenda for the 5 years, and the people have supported it.
No, so a little tongue-in-cheek, but if I had to contrast it, and let me come to Neerja Chaudhary, and of course we're welcoming Madhavan Narayanan, senior journalist, to this panel as well. Madhav, I'll come to you in a bit, but let me come to Neerja Chaudhary. If I had to say this a little tongue-in-cheek, you have the strongman image on one side with, Modi talking about the Balakot strikes in a lot of interviews and speeches. The one about the radar and the cloud cover has, caused a little of embarrassment on Twitter as well. And on the other hand, you have Rahul Gandhi going on talking about love and how he is going to defeat, hate with love. So you have the strong man and the love guru. In the image and the perception, which one is coming out stronger, you think?
I don't think you can compare the two. Let me say at the outset that Mr. Modi has very carefully, in a calibrated fashion, planned the narrative for every single phase of election. What is going to be the narrative? He set the agenda. Rahul Gandhi, who managed to read the pulse of the people in the 3 assembly elections last year, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, and concentrated on farmers and unemployment, and his party came to power in all 3 states. That economic narrative was somewhere lost in February this year with Pulwama and Balakot, and once the elections got underway, it has been other issues other than unemployment, farmers' distress, and the bread and butter issues that are agitating people. And somewhere the opposition hasn't managed quite, they've tried, but they hasn't managed to make that the centerpiece of the campaign. So in a sense, they have fallen in the trap of Mr. Modi and the BJP, which has a very well-oiled machinery. In the penultimate round, Rahul Gandhi has followed in many ways, whether it was temple hopping, whether it was the use of the social media, and so on, several things that were done by the BJP brass. But in the penultimate round, he is positioning himself as a contrast to Mr. Modi in the way he went and voted this morning. He walked. Mr. Modi, when he voted in the 3rd phase, it was a huge road show that day in Gujarat, with even the streets being washed with water and people, huge hype and all that is associated with him. And then talking about, as you said, love versus hate and so on. So I think, and Rahul Gandhi's style has been very understated, whereas Mr. Modi's style is very different, as you and I know, in reaching out to people. Now, which one is going to work? Will both work to varying degrees? That remains to be seen. But this thing of interviews is very good for us in the media, that both are talking finally to the media in such a good way. And today's interview in the Indian Express was hard hitting questions and hard hitting answers. And that is the way it should be between media and a politician. And I think this thing of Lutyens Delhi and Khan Market, he is again playing the Namdar Kamdar card, which is talked about in the past. Me, the chaiwala, these people who are entitled, that's not an area I belong to. And in the past he said, I have not been able to win over Lutyens Delhi. I think Mr. Modi, one last thing I will say about the interview today and this comment about Khan Market and Lutyens Delhi, it is also to address global opinion, because this the Time magazine putting him on the cover with the chief divider of India, talking about the erosion in of the free press and institutions. This is something he's saying, I am giving an interview, freewheeling interview to a critical paper like the Indian Express, see where I stand and what I believe in. So I think that's, apart from reaching out maybe to the first time voter, he's also doing, addressing global opinion.
Let me come to you on, we've been talking about contrasting styles here, but the real situation truly is that this is just a bit of perception building towards the fag end of this election. The true fight is fought on the ground, and regional parties perhaps will have a more crucial role to play. We'll have to wait and see after May 23rd, than just the Congress in the opposition bloc. I don't think Madhavan can hear me. We'll fix his audio and get back to him. Let me also switch focus to this phase and two key areas that we should look at over here. Madhavan, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can. Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead with the question I asked you? Where the point I was making is that media is obsessed with this Modi versus Rahul fight, but the fact is on the ground, it's the regional players who are going to make all the difference, isn't it?
Absolutely. There are two issues very clear. I have said this before, Modi has presidentialized the prime ministerial election, but that has a limited impact, because the further you go from Delhi towards the south, the less it is important. And the other thing is that Rahul's talk of love is just a nice packaging. The real deal is Nyay. Love will not get him votes, Nyay might get him votes. That is very important. So the real question is, it's all between the strongman with a national security pitch and versus the hard details of economic populism and social populism that the Congress manifesto tells. At the ground level, it is the Congress manifesto versus Modi's charisma. Whereas there is a soft populism in Modi's campaign, which the party cadres are very excited about, particularly the Ujjwala scheme and the gas cylinders. And so Modi is trying to make women into some kind of a vote bank in parts of northern India, but it's very important to remember that this is not statistically significant in the way, let's say, MN-Riga is for the Congress. So he might want to swing some votes and try to appeal over the traditional divides, but it's a very hard battle. It's only in MP, Rajasthan and Haryana some of Modi's typical appeal works, the grandstanding. I think when you go down to the wires, as Ravi Shastri would have put it in a cricket match, the alliances matter. The further the Jagan factor, the Naveen Patnaik factor, everything will be playing out. I do not see a wave. Today's turnout figures also indicate there is no wave that I can see. It's all, even in Bihar, or except for Bengal, which is going to be a big positive surprise for BJP as I see it. In other places, there's going to be a hell of a lot of what I call carefully stitched up alliances, or and that depends on how the actual mandate pans out, which state gets what, who strikes what kind of gold, whether it is Jagan Reddy or even KCR, I don't rule out in some way. So there is going to be a lot of things, and at the moment, as you rightly said, the Indian Express interview and is some sort of a way to send out a message that we are in governance and we are not just winning elections on the ground. And therefore, winning this election is going to be a problem for both parties because there's a hell of a lot of two. We shall probably wait for the 23rd to discuss that, but I already see problems ahead on that front.
Let me come to this phase, and you spoke about West Bengal and voter turnouts there, and that I think will end up being the most fascinating story of election 2019. Either it will be overhyped terribly, or it will be a big surprise like everyone's predicting. Shagrika, how do you look at it? The BJP, I think, has moved close enough to pitch itself as the prime opposition party in West Bengal. Do you think that they're betting on a bigger number than an improvement over last time?
Yes, Tamanna, in fact, I was just there last week in Purulia and Bankura and Jhargram, where the temperature, of course, is 50 degrees in the heat, in the shade. So it was really rather hot, and Mamata Banerjee and BJP are turning up the heat even further. But it's a desperately contested election in Bengal. You know, as we say in Bengali, it's a hadda-haddi ladai. It's a bone-to-bone election that's being fought, bitterly contested. It's acrimonious, and very interestingly, Tamanna, you know, I've covered Bengal now for almost 2 decades, and you really, for the first time in an election in Bengal, you don't see the left. The left has almost vanished, and its place has been taken by the BJP. So it's kind of unthinkable what has happened. You see saffron flags now in cities like Midnapur, which of course is close to Kharagpur, where of course the big communal riots happened and the communal conflagrations happened. So yes, the BJP is replacing the left as the as this opposition to Mamata, and I believe that in 25 out of the 42 seats, it is BJP versus TMC in a direct fight. But of course, the TMC has a very strong organizational machinery on the ground. Mamata's cadres are extremely strong, so the BJP still doesn't have that organizational machinery, nor does it have state-level leaders. There is Dilip Ghosh, who is contesting in Midnapur against Manas Bhuiyan of the TMC, and that's also a tough fight which I witnessed. But Dilip Ghosh is the state president of the BJP. He's not a Bengal-wide face. He's not that well known. So they are hamstrung by not having a Bengali leader. But let me tell you, Tamanna, I think this election is the most polarized election I've ever seen. It's polarized on pro-Modi, anti-Modi, polarized on religion, polarized on caste. And coming back to that Indian Express interview, again, Mr. Modi designating his ideological enemies, the Namdars, the Khan market elite, the liberal left, the so-called Lutyens land people, this constant desire to designate ideological enemies, us versus them, tukre gang, anti-nationals, compulsive contrarians, urban Naxals, the constant us versus them rhetoric that has come from the very top of this government has actually spilled down, percolated to every level. So the polarization on the ground, the polarization at every level is so intense. That there is desperate competition and there is violence. In Bengal, the desperation of the political competition is resulting in violence.
Let me get Smita's take on that as well. It's polarization. Maybe it is also a political thought which is occupying a vacant space. Like the way the BJP has found in West Bengal as the left sort of gets weaker and weaker. But what is it going to result into? There are 42 seats there. I think for Mamata, anything below 40 would be a beating. She would take it as a big hit. The BJP got 2 last time. The best case scenario for them would be what? Double digits?
Look, as far as the polarization issue is concerned, I think it was during Ayodhya and post-Ayodhya that was the worst case scenario of polarization. And fortunately, this election, we have gone past the issue of riots before an election. Thank God that this time there have been no riots during the election, and other than some random incidents of violence which happened in West Bengal, imagine in Bihar there was nothing. Kashmir has gone peacefully, the elections there. So, you know, let's see this polarization is basically reduced to social media and the leadership talking about us versus them. Otherwise, there's been no polarization of in the sense of violence. So in that I am grateful. Two was the interview when you asked me about TMC. Yes, of course, West Bengal left has completely been wiped out and its space has been taken by the BJP. Actually, the same kind of people who were on the streets, you know, doing the job for the left are now doing the job for the TMC as well as the BJP. And this has happened 2 years ago. The fact that every speech of Mamta has been about Modi and about BJP and not about the left. She's not even bothered to speak about them. In fact, it's Mr. Modi who's talked about Sitaram Yechuri and the left at times. But she's not even bothered about that. She's totally been on messaging, which is that one has to defeat the BJP. And she has prime ministerial ambitions. You can couch that in any other language that you want, but she certainly has ambitions to be in Delhi at some point of time. Now you come to about what Madhavan said about Nyay. Nyay could have been something which was a vote getter, but I'm sorry, the Congress did not go ahead full steam with that. People on the ground, and I travelled, Sagarika's travelled also. When we travelled on the ground, nobody knows about Nyay. The Congress did not work on their messaging as far as Nyay is concerned. And I think at the 6th penultimate phase, they have figured out that it's been too late. As far as what Nija said about the hard-hitting interview of Indian Express, here I have to say this, that my impression is that it's been hard-hitting from Modi's side, where he's really hit out at the Indian Express, and all the bitterness that he has towards the Indian Express, I think, has come out. Whereas the questioning, I mean, Indian Express did so many stories on Balakot, they did so many stories on Rafale, whereas these two questions were missing. Had it been any of us who had done the interview, they would have come down cracking on us. But they did not ask about Rafale, they did not ask about Balakot, over which they did several scoops, supposedly.
Okay, that's an interesting take.
I think it was more one-sided in
yeah, that's an interesting take, and I know where you're coming from, Smita, because you've been at the receiving end for a lot of your interviews. But I mean, no point discussing someone else's interview. Before we end, I have to talk about Delhi. I've run out of time almost, but I must ask Nija and Madhavan about Delhi. Nija, let me come to you. Delhi is only 7 seats, but it's so exciting because it's sort of the weather vane. 2014, BJP bags all 7. 2009, Congress gets all 9. Before that, 2004, Congress gets 6 out of 7. And now you have a 3-way fight there. So no one's really sure what's happening.
Look, you know, let's be clear about one thing. 2019 is about Narendra Modi being the candidate in all the 543 constituencies in the country. He is the central issue. You have, I agree with Sagarika that the election is very sharply polarized between those for him and those against him. Of course, there is the Hindu-Muslim thing, not so overt this time. And there is also caste polarization. In UP, where I've travelled extensively, it is forward caste and the most backward caste as one man for Modi, and you have Muslims, Dalits, the Jatav Dalits, and the farming community, the Yadavs, solidly behind the Gathbandhan. But anyway, that's not a question you've asked. The question on Delhi is, because it is Modi and people are voting for it's a presidential election, therefore when you have a 3-way divide, had the Congress, and stating the obvious, had the Congress and Aam Aadmi Party come together, they would have given a bigger fight. We are watching certain constituencies with interest, the East Delhi, where Gautam Gambhir versus Atishi Marlena, particularly after this horrible, horrendous, I mean, should never be allowed to happen, this kind of note that was spread about her. You know how that is going to, of course, he has got the cricketing community to back him now, and then Sheila Dikshit's seat, Ajay Makin's seat, how that's going to go. You know, these
super exciting.
These, figures who, Sheila Dikshit, 15 years CM, have made a mark. So it is, but it is caught eyeballs in more ways than one. But then if you know, if it is going to be election where people are looking at who's going to be the Prime Minister and there's a three-way split, then it could be advantage BJP in several of these constituencies.
Okay, Madhavan,
which could have been avoided had the other two parties got together.
Yeah, but I mean, that is clearly not happening. Have they covered enough ground? Have the AAP and the Congress covered enough ground to make some headway, or is it a walkover for the BJP? Madhavan, you just have very little time, but you can sum up the debate.
Yeah, Aam Aadmi Party is trying to use its local work in health and education and the inspired grassroots campaign to counter the BJP, and is hoping that the local factor and the hard work will give a certain goodwill enough to give it a chance of winning. Yes, it is the local competing against an international narrative. It's going to be an interesting fight, but the Congress is, I don't think, in the picture. That's all I can say now.
That's it may not really be advantage BJP all the way as is being predicted in Delhi. We'll have to wait and see. I want to thank all of you for joining us on this all-important penultimate phase of polling. Most seats done, just about 59 left to go. Thank you so much for watching.